Warrior. A quick recap of what we have discussed so far with respect to Kayakalpam. In Kayakalpam, the essence is to understand the relationship between body, mind, life force, biomagnetism, and vital fluids. Understanding the relationship between all these five is what is crucial to do Kayakalpam in a perfect manner. And in understanding this, not just understanding, we need to realize the relationship. When we come to that question, there is a very fundamental difference in the way how we think and how we approach these subjects. So far, we have been educated. Our education has taught us to think effectively in an objective manner. It's an influence of Macaulay's system of education in British education. Most of us has been there, which is influenced back from Ptolemy and Aristotle times, where we see and observe the world around us, the subjects, the research subjects, in an objective manner, and without bias, we try to understand. The consequence of that is, see, even in our school days, we have studied about cells, we have studied about human anatomy. We don't feel that it is my body. The same thing is happening within us, within me. Right? Even yesterday, we were saying about what is a cell and how a cell functions. The most fundamental unit of a body is a cell. But when we feel that it is how my cell is performing, this is what my body is doing, we fail to get that realization. If we want to clearly get that realization, we need to go one more step and have a subjective analysis. We need to do a research in a subjective manner. Like, what is that? That is like from me, trying to experience it from within. That's what we need to study about this. These aspects, all these five aspects, we need to see from a subjective perspective. How I experience, how the subject is experiencing. When we say about subjective experience, let's first understand what is subject. A simple example is when I say the word, I watch TV. In this statement, TV is the object, watch is the verb, I is the subject, the one which performs the verb, performs the action is the subject. The one on which the verb, the action is performed is the object. Okay, very clear. So when I say in the statement, I watch TV, TV is the subject. In the statement, I watch my body, the body is the object, I is the subject. I can watch my thoughts. I watch the thoughts. Again, the thoughts are the object. I is the subject. If the thoughts are just an object, if the body itself is just an object, if these are on which the action is performed, who is it that is performing all these actions? Who is I, or where is I? I, when we say I, it is that subject to experience. The consciousness within is what we are referring as I. The experience within us is what we are saying as I. From that perspective, from the perspective of experience, we are going to do our study. Okay. Now, when we do any research, if you're doing a PhD or any kind of research, it consists of 3 steps. The first step is to understand what is reality. Define what is reality. Reality. We call it as ontology, study of reality. And then we need to understand the relationship between the researcher and reality. What is the researcher and the subject in which we are researching about? Right. The first point is understanding about what is the object which we are researching, the reality of the object. The second step is to define the relationship between who is researching, the researcher and the object. What is it? And then the third step is defining a methodology. What method, what steps through which we are doing the research. Wherever we are doing the research, this is what we do. Okay. Now we are going to research about our mind. Research about this subject, I. That factor we are trying to research today. We are trying to clearly understand what is this I and experience and discover that I. Okay. So far we have arrived that I, the subject, means refers to the consciousness, the experience, the feeling of something. Okay. To make sure we clearly differentiate, we have clearly understood this concept very clearly. Let's do a small experiment. Okay. As I was requesting you, please take a spoon of sugar. Okay. Let's say we have a spoon of sugar with us. Okay. Once we have it, you don't need to keep it in your hands, just keep it aside. Now, let's say this is a powder. Okay, there's a white powder, and we are trying to objectively discover this powder and understand its properties. Okay. Now, so let's not touch it at all. Just leave it aside, and let's try to discover about the properties of this object. If you want to objectively see this, how do you evaluate? What are the things you can know about this object when you're looking at it in objective manner? Okay. Let's say one more thing. We said that we should be looking at researching about this object in an objective manner, right? And to make sure that we are not, there is clear objectivity, you are not using your senses. Let's say there is a robot which is doing it, but we should not use your senses to identify it. What can we find? What can we discover from that? You should not use your senses at all. Because if you use your senses, then it will become subjective. How you experience, right? Maybe what we can do is we can add some chemical to it. And from that, we can identify what properties are there. Like we can identify how much The sugar is basically carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. C6H12O6. It should be having some glucose in it. Instead of sugar, if you are having salt, you should be seeing sodium chloride in it. What else we can observe there? Let's say if you put it under a microscope and spectrometer, spectrum analyzer, what can we observe there? Atoms, beautiful. Structure of the atoms, beautiful. What else we can observe? So we have this property in front, or maybe is it burning? It the state of being we can the machine can observe. Right? How many atoms are there? How many electrons are there? How many protons are there? That can be found out. Is it possible to tell the taste of it? See, now without tasting it, beautiful, right? So to find the taste or to experience something. See, now if you want to understand this property, this object, you need to put it in your mouth. And now let's do this subjective experience, subjective study, right? Only when this is interacting with our senses, we have an experience of taste, right? Now let's do the subjective study. What else we can feel? When we use our senses, what else we can learn about this object? And sometimes when you get it closer, we can also feel a smell of the sugar, right? And if you keep it closer to our ears, you can also feel how does it sound. See, if you are slowly, it is flowing down, right? Or maybe if it is like sugar cubes, bigger size, right? So this is experiential analysis, subjective analysis. To the senses, this is how it feels. Okay? Were you able to notice the difference here? What is objective experience and what is subjective experience? Until this object is interacting with me, interacting with my senses, it will not even exist to my experience. I don't know what this experience is until I interact with this object. Until I'm experiencing it, I cannot say this. Right? We're able to clearly appreciate that a difference. Now, there's one more example if you take it. So let's say what you have in front is not sugar. If this is cyanide, okay? Now, the cyanide, they know that its chemical properties, we know. Now, what is the taste of cyanide? Cyanide's property is as soon as someone puts that in their tongue, within a fraction of a second, they will die. Okay. And when scientists were trying to study about this, the they were trying to understand what is the experience of cyanide. Okay? Nobody knows that. They only know that its experience, the taste, start with letter S. And before they complete that uh, sentence, whether it can be salty, sugary, sour, it could be either of the three. Before they complete it, the person has passed away. They have no idea what is that taste is. Okay? So the experience of the taste, the experience of something happens only when an object is interacting with us, interacting with our consciousness. Right? Is that clear? We're able to appreciate the difference. What is subjective experience here is? Okay. Now, here, let's say, by just, let's say if you're not tasted something at all before, if you're not tasted something at all before, you're getting making a new sweet, which I've not tasted at all before. And I'm seeing it in front of me here. Do we know what taste it will be? No, right? Because to experience a taste, it has to be interacting with our tongue, not with our eyes. Right? So each sense organ can only experience a particular sensation. Now, if we go even more one step further here, let's say when you are interacting with this sweet, the first sweet, if you put it in your tongue, how taste should be. Let's say let's identify. Look at your favorite sweet. Okay, the first sweet you take it, and when you put it in your tongue, you feel really sweet. You really enjoy it. Okay? Now, when you take the second one, and third one, and fourth one, will the fourth sweet be as sweet as the first one? What do you guys think? Do you think the fourth sweet will be as sweet as the first one? Sai, Murali, Saranya. Right? Think about your very favorite sweet. What is your favorite sweet? Mysore pak. Okay. Let's say, let's take the Mysore pak and you're putting the first Mysore pak in your tongue. It will be really sweet. How tasty it will be. Right? And now you are having your fourth Mysore pak. Thus, the fourth Mysore pak will be as sweet as the first one. Saturated, right? Exactly. If sweetness, all the four Mysore Parks will be taken from the same box only. Okay. If sweetness is a property of the Mysore Pak, then the fourth Mysore Pak should be as sweet as the first one, right? Why is the fourth Mysore Pak not as sweet as the first one if it is coming from that Mysore Pak? Instead, if the sweetness is coming from our tongue, I still had the same tongue, same sensory organ. Why is the fourth Mysore Pak have the same sweetness as the first Mysore Pak? That means between the tongue and the Mysore Pak, there is something else which is there that is changing. Right? Both the Mysore Pak is also the object, the tongue is also an object, part of the body. The subject is something else. Yeah. So it is the sweetness is neither the property of these two objects. Sweetness is the property of the subject. Should be coming from the interaction. Sweetness should be coming from the interaction. So what is interacting here? Let's imagine in the sweet Mysore Pak, there is certain amount of energy. In the Mysore Pak, let's say it is having 10 units of magnetic field energy. Let's say for simplicity, I'm just going to call it as magnetic field. Okay. And in our body, we have energy flowing all along. Yesterday, we saw that we are having energy which is flowing through the entire body, which is binding all the cells together. And I'm going to call this energy. To spend, to taste, there is a work needs to be done. So the common fuel in the body at the energy level, I'm going to name that as biomagnetism, the energy currency in the body. Let's say that biomagnetism is 5 units by default. At the point of contact, the level of energy, biomagnetism in the tongue and the sense organ elevates up to 10. That elevation, that increase in the level is what we perceive as sweetness. And since it is already increased, the default level is now at 6. And the next time when I taste the Mysore Pak, the elevation is only till 4 units. Like this, at the fourth Mysore Pak, it is already at level 10. It cannot excite any further. Say when you are tasting something, afterwards, if you get something, after you feel saturated, if you taste a completely new sweet, which is even more tastier, even more sweeter, from the 10 to that level only, you will see that excitation. Right? So that aspect we need to understand it very clearly here. So in essence, what is happening here? The taste, the perception is just the conversion of our own energy. This is what in Siddhar songs and all, they used to explain this. See, if a dog chews a bone, what will happen is, initially it will take a bite of the bone, it will bite, and in the bone there will be little flesh, it will try to chew it, and after a while it will be little tasty and it will crush it little hard, and then a piece of bone will slightly poke into its mouth and it starts bleeding. And the dog thinks that this blood is coming from the bone and it start chewing it harder. Right? Like that, we indulge in our sensory perceptions. Right? We think that whatever we are perceiving, that experience is coming from the object, but but that experience is basically the conversion of our own energy and our own biomagnetism. Okay, it's a very important realization which we need to have. Okay, please remember, it's a very important realization. If there is one thing which I want you to take out from here, it should be this aspect from today's session, that perception is just the experience of conversion of our own biomagnetism, our own energy. That brings another question here. Let's say all throughout the day, I'm wearing my dress. Do I continue to experience my that sensation? No, right? Why not? The feeling is almost getting saturated. Exactly. Getting saturated. And also, um, when we are, while perceiving, when the conversion is always happening, right? Whether you start or whether you know it or not, whether you stop it, whether you like it or not, the conversion of biomagnetism into the respective objects interaction will be continue to happen. That is the law of nature. But wherever our attention is, that becomes very clear, and we only that becomes recorded within us. Wherever we pay attention to, we are conscious. Wherever the awareness is, that is only we'll prominently know. Even now, if you just look at a different area of your body and we pay closer attention there, you can feel that, oh yeah, here my dress is touching. You can notice that. So wherever that attention is there you can experience a perception. So while perception to happen, two things are happening. The first thing is it is the conversion of our own biomagnetism, which is getting perceived, and wherever the attention is there, that point is where there is that the conversion in that place is what I'm perceiving. Okay, we can apply this concept in all our activities, all sensory activities we have. Okay? Let's stop it at this point, and for the throughout the day, please try to understand that experience, whatever you're interacting with. Try to analyze and try to validate that experience from the point of view of the subject and try to validate that. Tomorrow, we'll go one more level deep and see the other aspect of the mind, which is after perceiving, I already had the knowledge. How is that affecting? See, now I don't need to have a taste a mango now to experience the taste now at this point of time. Previously, when I had that taste, that is already recorded in me, in my memory. Because of that, what is the consequence? So what? Because of that, what is the consequence? We'll see tomorrow. Right? Be blessed by the divine. If anyone have any questions, we can go over now.